That's some catch, that catch 22. It's the best there is. But how is the movie? Well, it's uneven, but spectacular. Not unlike the day when I first saw the movie back in the summer of 1970. I was in summer school because I failed high school French. I have a tin ear, among other things. Normally, I went to All Hallows, a Catholic boys' school in the Bronx, but the summer school classes were held in Power Memorial, which, oddly enough, was located on the original site of All Hallows before it was relocated to the Bronx. Power was famous in New York in those days because of Lou Alcindor. You may know him as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he wasn't there that day. He had graduated a few years before. Power Memorial was located on 61st Street on the west side of Manhattan. In fact, they were still building parts of Lincoln Center when I went there. It was a long, hot trip from the Bronx by subway every morning, and what with all the dust and the jackhammers ripping up the streets every day, it was summer in the city hot. Our French teacher was a lay teacher, and we wondered if he was gay because he had these Nero-like curls going across his forehead. But it didn't matter. He was a good teacher, and he was funny, which counted for a lot. So we cut him some slack. And that's just the way it was back then. Now, I'd never heard a gunshot before, not in real life anyway. So at first I wasn't sure what I was hearing. But this was inside the building and right above our heads on the next floor. Now we knew the floor above was empty because all the summer school classes were held on the first two floors, and we were already on the second floor. And then there was another hollow boom, followed by a metallic crash. And our teacher's face fell open in panic. And a moment later, the fire alarm went off and the PA system said that we had to leave the building immediately. Well, thanks to years of fire drills, we did leave in an orderly fashion. We weren't scared, not exactly. We were sort of excited about being part of something unusual. Sadly, that's no longer the case. We were lined up about half a block away, unsure whether we were free to go or whether we would have to return to class once all of this was over, whatever all of this was. And then it got kind of quiet. There were no more gunshots. And there was a rumor running through the line that it was the school janitor and that he in fact had a stash of weapons in a locker. But we didn't know. And we didn't know if it was over. And then New York's first SWAT team showed up. SWAT was a whole new concept back then. In fact, I'm not sure if they even called it SWAT back then, maybe something tactical. But they came in these big trucks, so we knew it was something special. Things remained quiet, and nothing seemed to be happening. Nothing that we could see, anyway. And it was getting close to noon and getting hot. This was July in New York City, after all. And then the whole thing just seemed to peter out, and our teacher said we were dismissed for the day. Cool. But now what? My after-school job at the library didn't start until 4, so I had some time to kill. And that meant possibly a movie, if there was a theater close by, and if the first screening was early enough, I could do it. And, as fate would have it, I lucked out on both counts, as Loews had just opened a brand new theater at Columbus Circle, and that was just a few blocks away. It was a small, brand new theater located 1 block below street level, which was unusual. And so was Catch 22, which had just opened that week. Now, Joseph Heller's book was a cultural milestone, of course. Set in World War II, but written in the 50s, it really gained traction in the 60s because of Vietnam. But the critics, by and large, seemed to hate the movie. They were outraged by the $20 million budget and were dismissive of the nonlinear narrative that screenwriter Buck Henry and director Mike Nichols chose to tell the story with. But that nonlinear narrative was actually faithful to the book. That's the way Heller had written it. The movie has a large, star-studded cast, and Alan Arkin is perfect as Yossarian, but I think Richard Benjamin steals the show. After it was over, I took the train back to the Bronx and my after-school job at the library. By the time I got home, it was 9:30 at night, and I don't think I ever did find out what was the cause of the school shooting that morning. But years later, I discovered that there was a shooting at the same school way back in 1948, as students were rehearsing to march in the St. Patrick's Day parade. One boy was killed and 6 were wounded. That's some catch, that catch-22. See you around the campus.